welcome to part two in regards to how I started and made the play lyrics. Thank you for all of those who watched the very part one. Part one, I wanted to just make it fun. I just said, why not just make some music and put the actual what it is that I start off with in the story and in music and make it like a little cool video. So thank you for all of you who watched it. You'll see something cool like that here at the end of this one. And so thanks again for being part of that. Part two, I want to talk about what is the very first thing I do when I'm writing a story? And what I do is I write a story similar to the way you would think about a screenplay. And for those of you who are into writing or understand writing, screenplays usually, when you go to a good movie, at least for me, I always start off with a wonderful image. Like, what is the image of that story? It can be a person, it can be a place, sometimes it can be an object. Sometimes it doesn't have to be any one of those. Sometimes it can be just words. So just think an example of like Star Wars, whether you like Star Wars or not. At the beginning of it, you know what you're looking at because it tells you where the world is in the very first part of it. In other movies, you will see just a person or just an individual waking up, or someone will have an object in front of them. I think about that with when I'm writing a play now. The difference is that you're in a play, so you got the people in around there. But usually like the audience, and so for those of you looking at this, I'm going to explain to you the tool that I use here in a second. You want to explain to the audience where we are. For me, when I go to a play, like scene one, page one, I need to know, I want to dive into the world that I'm in. And I'm not saying this against other plays where it's a slow burn, and after a period of time, I understand the world or where the people are. Just for me as a writer, I like to just head. I want my audience to be like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on in this world? What's happening? Who's happening? How is it?" And I want the story to tell the world more than a stat or even the lights or the sounds. I want the characters, the actors to tell the story about how this is working. What I do when I very first start writing, I do write out all this exposition. You see it highlighted here because when we had our most recent reading, I made it highlighted. So I wanted all of the actors to like forget it because I wanted to make sure it was in the time constraints of the reading space that we were using. I wanted everyone to just jump in. Audiences are smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. And so just jump in, forget the exposition. Let's just do it. It's good for Winston. It's good for me to know when I'm writing that it follows my outline, etc. But I want the actual audience to jump right into the world. And so that's what I started off with. And in here, you can see that I've got a little bit of characters in there, and there's a narrator, and then there's some really great lyrics written by some guy. I don't know who wrote those, but it's really cool. Uh, and then I have what you will see a lot of times explained for those of you who are not familiar with theater writing. There's these things called stage directions. And stage directions are like something happens. People come on stage, stage right, stage left. And in some cases, they might do something. The reason why you see this highlighted here is, like I said, I want the actors to just do it. I write it initially because I want the actors to know what I want them to do. And I've been to readings where these are actually said out loud, where you'll have someone who's reading them out loud. So, for those who are not familiar with the term stage reading versus a production, stage reading is when you take a fully developed script, you get some actors, you get some other folks like stage readers, and you just read the script aloud in front of an audience. And the benefit of that is that you get some feedback from the audience. And that's what we did with lyrics, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. But I want the actors to not know, don't want them to do that. I don't want it to be said. I want the audience to just say, "Hey, I know where I'm at. You don't have to tell me." Uh, and then from there, I write initially, and this is just my style of writing. It's not like other people's writing. I write like how people talk. Uh, Maybe this is a little bit about where I grew up. But people don't talk in full sentences sometimes. They just say stuff to you, especially if I know you. I'm just like, what? Heck no. Nah. What? I don't say full blown sentences like I would if I was an English aristocrat. I don't speak like that. And I think some people don't either. And so that's why I write sort of like that. I just express how people are. And I like to introduce the main characters initially. The cool thing is that sometimes when I'm writing stories, and this was the feedback I got for lyrics, is that whom I deem to be the main characters. I like when audience members tell me that even though they know who the main character is, there was this character here or there that it resonated with them and they felt like they were part of it. There was a monologue, for example, that I wrote for one of the main characters here in this story, and it's been chosen a couple of times to be read by wonderful up and coming actors at the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. You just don't know how um, grateful I am that young people would decide to pick some of my work to be read aloud and to use it as a monologue because it connects with them. That's part two. I hope you're enjoying this series. I am having a blast showing you what I do, showing you how I go about doing the stories that I write, the life that I have, the gratitude that I have, the love that I have for all of the things around theater, creativity, personal development, and love for my fellow man. And if I write a story, I love hip hop lyrics. Love hip hop and the lyrics and the graffiti and the turntables and the DJs and all the things that came about that because that music was there when I was there. I was part of it in the periphery. And I said, how would I honor something that I totally love, especially after it's been around for half of a century or more? How would I honor it? And for me, I would honor it by writing a pretty cool story. So that's part two. And part three, you're going to hear a little bit about the emotionality that I put into every single one of my stories. And I'll talk even more about Scrivener and why Scrivener is dope to me. So thank you all for spending time with me. Thank you all for being part of my journey and my life. I appreciate you all. I look forward to seeing you in part three as to why and how I created the story lyrics.